Hi, how are you doing? And welcome back to Cannock Chase Paranormal. Really kind of want to apologise that I haven't uploaded any kind of videos since August last year, which is an awful long time. Following that investigation, which was the last video I uploaded, we had two other investigations in September. And I do have footage which I kind of need to go through and watch, and I will be uploading them. And then I've literally just this Saturday, the 17th, we investigated Castle Ring. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that shortly. But the first thing I really wanted to kind of talk about was the weird dream I had just before Christmas, and it kind of felt like really ominous and threatening. I don't usually kind of talk about this thing. I don't generally kind of get these kind of psychic vibes from stuff when I go on an investigation. I observe, I record, and objectively I kind of try and debunk as much as I can. But when it comes to dreams, I've always been kind of interested in not necessarily the mechanism of dream, but essentially how it makes me feel. And it was a kind of really weird time for Christmas, because essentially I wasn't even thinking about the paranormal. But then this dream came all of a sudden, and it made me stop it, stopped me in my tracks. It was around about the 18th of December. At that time, I was kind of working on my other YouTube channel, which is a music reaction channel. I was working on this other YouTube channel, really kind of entrenched in all the music that I was learning about and all the bands that were new to me. So I had no real kind of thoughts whatsoever about the paranormal. And then I woke up on the 18th, was it 19th, 18th or 19th of December, having had this kind of really weird, bizarre dream. And I have to kind of warn you, I was hoping that a friend of mine would have done me an artist's interpretation of my sketches, but that hasn't kind of come to fruition. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to show you my sketches. I am no artist, but when I had this dream, I felt that I should sketch this dream immediately. And even stranger than that, the day after, I had exactly the same kind of dream, but with a different person involved, and I sketched that one as well. So I'm just going to get these up now to show you what I'm talking about. Essentially what happened when I kind of woke up was I kind of sketched this picture, as I've said, and what really kind of like I remember from this dream was that how threatening he was without actually raising his voice. And it's strange that this was a guy who was he had dark hair. He had I suppose you could say he was like a handsome complexion, but he was like dressed in black. And weirdly, the edges of his body and his head were they seemed to be in this kind of blurry cascade all around. All of the edges of his body and his head were blurred, as if I was kind of seeing him through a strange kind of vortex. But yeah, ultimately he felt like he was leaning over me, and the message he said was, you need to stop investigating now. And I never kind of really thought too much about that. It just felt a bit weird the next day when I kind of woke up. But I vividly remember the effect, and it was just such a strange kind of image, especially the kind of blurriness. To be more precise, the blurriness reminded me of a scene in Lord of the Rings when I think Frodo gets stabbed on the hill, and when he slips the ring on, all of a sudden he kind of goes into this different dimension, and those assailing him, the kings of past that had turned into ring wraiths, they're kind of in this kind of weird dimension where they're not blurred, but it kind of feels like they are. And that was exactly the same effect as I got during this dream. And by the way, I hadn't watched Lord of the Rings at that point for a long, long time. As I said before, I was kind of really kind of tune into make and do music reactions on my other channel. So I wasn't really thinking about this at all. So essentially, in a nutshell, I had this guy dressed in black leaning over me and essentially telling me to stop investigating. And that was on the first night. So I kind of woke up. I remember this. I sketched it. This is a sketch that I made. And then the following evening, I have a different dream. And this is a terrible sketch. I'm looking at this now because my drawing skills are absolutely, totally pants. And in this dream was a little bit weird. I was walking in a shopping centre. And as I came around a corner, I was kind of confronted by a really, really tall woman. She was black. And I remember that she was kind of wearing a sort of a three-quarter trench coat, a black turtleneck, black trousers, black shoes. But the weirdest thing about her was that she was incredibly tall. And the other thing I noticed about her that kind of frightened me in the dream was that she had no eyelids. So her eyes seemed to kind of be bulging. And I don't recall any eyebrows either. And she stood right in the middle of this aisle of a shopping centre as I came around the corner. And I remember that you had the shelves coming up either side. So, I mean, my drawing's terrible. And this sketch was essentially designed for somebody else to maybe give me an artist's impression of what I was kind of thinking about. And I kind of found images on the internet of people who might fit a vague description so that the person in question could actually use them to kind of create a proper artist impression. But this is a sketch, and this was done immediately when I woke up. So these are the shelves, that's the back shelf. And yeah, she dominated the entire aisle, really. And the aisle kind of felt very dark, as if the lights had been dimmed. And she said to me quite plainly, again, not in necessarily a tone, but just a matter of fact. She said, "You've already been told you need to stop investigating." And so this was the first night. I had a guy leaning over me saying, "You have to stop investigating." Then the second night, I have this woman stood in the middle of a shopping aisle telling me, "You've already been told you need to stop investigating." So I was kind of like feeling a little bit worried because dreams, I don't know too much about dreams. I've never read up about dreams, but I do know I've had some really kind of strange dreams in the past where I've kind of reconnected with loved ones, my mum, my dad, and that they've always felt like they've had a meaning. And somebody actually said to me, a couple of years ago, they said, when you know you've had a dream but you don't remember it's probably just your brain kind of resets itself, like in a resting state. But they said if you have a dream and you do remember the details the next day, it has some real kind of fundamental meaning. And even though I studied psychology and I know how kind of science works and that you have to be objective about it, I also kind of investigate the paranormal. So you have to suspend a little bit of disbelief in what you kind of see and you read and you hear. And you have to be really, really open to all possibilities. So essentially, if I was to kind of conclude the results of these two dreams, was I was confronted in a way that felt threatening by two individuals, one woman, one man, both dressed completely in black, both with the same message, and that's essentially it. So that was in December, January, February, March, April. So it's been 4 months. And then this last Saturday, which was the 17th of April, we were to go on to Castle Ring for the first time. There's a few new people coming, so I was really looking forward to it, to meeting them, new members of the team. And then the night before, I was getting my equipment ready, and I was walking up the stairs to kind of, I think I was putting some towels away, and this was on a Friday. And as I went upstairs, my legs suddenly gave out on me, and that was kind of really weird because that has happened twice when the night before I've gone to Castle Ring, my legs have gone, well, at least one of my legs have gone really funny on me. So I was in kind of like agony for about 10, 15 minutes of trying to get up the last few rungs of the stairs. It took me actually 10 minutes to get up the last 3 rungs because I had no idea what I did. But I managed to get down to Castle Ring on the Saturday, and yeah, I was kind of determined to actually not let this kind of injury sort of stop me from doing anything. But you know, it would be like a bit of a stretch for me to kind of like try tie in a sudden injury the night before I go back to Cannock Chase with with these 2 dreams. I'd like to kind of think scientifically that it's just complete coincidence. But it's happened, as I said, a couple of times, and apart from it not being pleasant, it's kind of made me kind of feel that I'm not always kind of alone with my thoughts about returning to Cannock Chase, and that and that sometimes you know, there are others that are kind of watching our progress. And maybe I do kind of worry that, you know, if we get close to something, I might get a physical visit from such people. The men in black, I think they call them. I mean, I'm not entirely sure I kind of believe in that kind of thing. But until it happens, then who knows? It was just really, really strange, these 2 dreams. So yeah, got to Castle Ring, and I have to say, I was wearing... I was actually on a walking crutch, and I wasn't moving very fast. So it was a great night, and I think there was about 9 of us. 9 of us attended this investigation. Castle Ring is an ancient Iron Age, what was a fort. I think it was related to the Cornavite tribe. And it's a really, really interesting place. I've had lots of activity there in the past, and we're kind of building up a picture of maybe what is going on there and what kinds of stuff triggers activity. But this night was kind of great. It was quite chilly, but it was very clear skies. It's actually quite warm when we got there. I think by about 11:30 it was about 2 degrees, which kind of felt really cold. But what we normally do is we walk around the top of a Castle Ring, which is kind of like there. We walk around, and then we kind of come down to the lower path, which is that path there, and that's kind of like borders the forest area. And occasionally we kind of get activity around about here, and we've had quite a lot of activity just inside this wooded area. But it kind of felt fairly quiet. But on 2 occasions, our team did see points of light. I think the first one was an amber light. I'm not really sure where. I think it may have been around about here. And one of our team dived into the woods to investigate, and actually found a memorial to a loved one that somebody had pinned to a tree. Obviously, being on a crutch and moving at about a turtle's pace, I didn't go into the forest at all. I kind of stopped to the path, which is really interesting for me because it gave me the opportunity to observe and listen. And in the past, when I've been with the crowd and we've all moved in, you never kind of appreciate how light and sound travels. So if in the past we've heard noises from around about here, we've always been inclined to we've not been able to process those sounds correctly because we've had nothing to compare them with. So yeah, in a way, having this bad leg, I took full advantage of the occasion to actually study how perhaps light and sound travels from just inside there. So yeah, the first one was an orange pointer light. Then Then as we kind of came around, we had another instant of, I think it was a red light, a red point of light, which again, they investigated, the rest of my team, and they discovered another memorial. So I thought this was like quite an interesting new phenomena, that we've had 2 points of light and the discovery of 2 memorials to loved ones. I can't really connect any specific cause to that. Maybe it's just coincidence, I think. The other really interesting thing that happened was, again, this could just be a weather phenomenon. So as we were entering this bit of woods just here, and I was kind of way back because of not being able to move so quickly, so I got to observe this from outside of what was happening, and just inside these woods, it felt all of a sudden that the wind just is like somebody turned on a kind of wind generator, and it was really, really loud, as if it was like a force 10 gale blowing through. And yet where I stood, it was like perfectly still. The skies were clear. The whole night had been really still. But as soon as the other guys entered these woods, the wind was kind of blowing like a force 10 gale. And I have kind of promised myself I'm going to maybe can research strange weather phenomena where wind can blow in one spot but not in another spot. And for sure, sometimes when you're at home and you can hear the wind roaring away in the background, but you kind of look outside and it feels like it's quite far away. And this could have just been simply one of those occasions, but when you're kind of walking around Cannock Chase, and especially Castle Ring, you tend to kind of put 2 and 2 together sometimes, and that's maybe the wrong, maybe I'm coming to the wrong equation with this one. But it did seem kind of really weird. It's the first time I've ever had it happen, and I couldn't see a reason for it. It wasn't a blustery night. It was very still and more or less clear skies, I think. So yeah, it was an interesting investigation for that. There is a path in these woods that you have to kind of duck behind a bush, and then you kind of find this path, and it takes you down to the lower area. Now, some of the team did go down. I did show them initially the initial route to kind of get down, but I think they said there was some kind of forestry work that had been carried out which had disrupted the path, and for health and safety reasons, you have to be careful. I usually do like a bit of a reconnaissance in areas like this, just to see how the land plays out, and I try and kind of factor in the people who are coming with us, whether they'd be able to get down and back easily. But in this case, it does seem like there may have been some sort of forestry work down there. They did a couple of wood knocks down there, and we sort of heard the wood knocks from where they were, but we kind of heard a refracted sound, so it kind of came across to our right. To our right. So this is an area where there has been some cryptid activity in the past, so it's always kind of interesting and worth doing a couple of wood knocks. I did a couple of call-outs in I think it's a Proto-Celtic language. I think it's Ancient Brittonic, to be more precise. I do have a couple of phrases which I tend to kind of use, as this was, I think this maybe, it's probably predated Celtic history, but never quite sure how far back Castle Ring goes. So it's possible that they used bits of this language. It's kind of a work in progress to learn to be able to say a few things, and to see if you can say, even if it's just kind of hello, good evening in a kind of different form of dialect and language. Then I don't know. Sometimes you can you build up a connection, I guess, with whatever's there, and it can elicit some sort of maybe activity at some point. But I was trying to think what else happened. As I say, I was like walking around, hobbling around quite a lot, and I had a crutch, one of those that you slide your arm through. So on the way back, we kind of made our way back onto the ring, and the rest of the guys are like forging ahead, and me, I was about sort of like 15, 20 meters behind. So, and as I was coming round, I think it was about here, I heard adjacent footsteps in the forest to me, which was kind of interesting. It could have been a deer. So I stopped a couple of times, which then people were carrying on walking, so they were even further away. Stopped a couple of times to have a listen, and for sure, at least once, I did hear like a crunching in the forest. So I don't think I was imagining it, that nobody else witnessed it, so it's purely down to my own brain processes, and that I processed that there were footsteps in the forest. Then as I walked around a little bit further, I then heard a couple of footsteps on the path behind me. Again, there was nothing there. So eventually when I caught up with two of the guys who were very kindly waited for me, and it was then that one of them said, I said, Gail, I thought that one of us was behind you because I could see a figure. And I thought that was kind of really interesting. I had no idea what that was. I didn't feel particularly scared by the prospect of having something maybe stalking me or walking behind me. And sometimes you can be in these areas and whatever's there doesn't particularly kind of frighten you. Then sometimes you do kind of get the feeling that there's something there that's not so nice, maybe. Again, this is kind of very woo-woo. We're just talking about feelings and not necessarily about fact and observation. But it's always a nice aside to an investigation to, maybe pick up a few of these things. And you can always put them on a shelf and then see if the same phenomena happens and others witness it, then it's kind of worth maybe talking about it. We've had that a few times, actually, especially with growls in this area, that we've had several people on several separate occasions witness or hear a growl, but they wouldn't have known that the other person witnessed a growl or heard a growl or saw anything in that area before. So that's kind of really interesting. It kind of validates returning to these areas over and over again. And yeah, so that's about it. I'm really kind of hoping that those dreams were just dreams and weren't something, some kind of intrusive message designed to scare me away from going to Cannock Chase. Because if nothing else, Cannock Chase is really nice to be at night. Even in the dead of winter, it's a beautiful place, and it's good exercise too. So just on that point alone, I would probably not be scared off by a couple of figures in black who are kind of menacing me to stop investigating, and I'll be carrying on investigations. Obviously, if I suddenly get a visit from these men in black, then that's going to be an interesting discussion, possibly one that kind of scares me to want to stop investigating, who knows. But until that happens, to going to keep the ball rolling with this. And I'm really sorry that I haven't posted before since August. But as I've said, I've got quite a few videos I want to kind of put up. Maybe some that I'll discuss previous investigations, and some that will be, of course, actual video footage of investigations which I haven't actually sat down and watched. And one of the things I really kind of want to do with this, and I was thinking a lot about how I wanted to present these investigations, and my initial kind of ideas were I could have, this wonderful music playing, and I could have this kind of shocking gothic imagery, and make it look really kind of sleek. But then I thought, you know what, kind of fuck it. What I really want to do is just give you the plain kind of facts as I've seen them. I want to give you the investigation, and I actually want to watch the investigation sort of live. So after I've recorded everything I've recorded, I then want to kind of sit down as if I was sitting down for the first time and watching the entire unedited investigation, just to kind of capture that feeling of looking and seeing, and rather than going over the investigation with a fine tooth comb and then reviewing it, because then I might be looking for stuff, I might be thinking at the stuff there, and then in your mind you kind of embellish those facts, and they become this kind of big fictional piece of drama that you've kind of created. So literally, my channel is about presenting what we encounter, what activity we saw or heard, and it's also about watching these videos in maybe raw, and I might kind of edit them down a little bit, especially if there's people's names, and or if there's situations where it's very quiet, we're just waffling, I might edit that out. But ultimately I'll be sitting down and watching and reacting to my own footage for the first time, and then just posting that, and that's essentially it. And if people kind of like that kind of stuff, then that's great. If they don't, and they like the whole kind of slick production of there's a demon and we're going to go get it and experiment with it, it's not really going to happen on my channel, unfortunately. I don't go in for the sensationalist angle of kind of recording and making it into a real piss poor version of another show that's on television. I'd rather just post my evidence and let you kind of decide what you're looking at, rather than me predicting what you're going to see. So guys, I kind of really hope you've enjoyed this video, and sorry it's got no whistles and bells. It's very raw, but this is the way I'm going to carry on. And you know what? Have a great day, have a great week, and I'll be posting some new video stuff. I've got a couple of investigations from last year to review. We've got another investigation coming up on the 22nd of May, and in between that time I'm going to be posting some other stuff as well. So yeah, take care of yourselves, and I'll catch you soon.